In this next exercise, or next video, we are going to talk about the individual exercise for the Route 54 superelevation. The first thing it wants us to do is to open up the superelevation file, and I have already done that, and it's open. The next step, it wants us to start creating the superelevation for 54 by selecting the following tool. And the tool that they want us to open up is the Create Superelevation Sections. And to get to that, you want to switch to the Open Roads modeling workflow, go over to Corridors, and then come over to the Create Superelevation Sections. First thing it wants us to look at is the feature definition. They want that to be set to superelevation if it's not already. When prompted for the name on your cursor, we're going to type in Route 54. And hit enter. Next, it's going to ask to locate the corridor or alignment. We're going to select the Route 54 alignment. Next, it wants us to ask for the start station, so we're just going to hit the Alt key to lock it into the beginning. And then we're going to left click to accept that. And then we'll hit the Alt key again to set the end station. And again, we will left click to accept that end station. Now the minimum tangent length, we're going to leave that at 1,000. This alignment only has one curve, so there will be no separate tangent sections for different curves since there's only one curve. So 1,000 will work fine. Next, it wants to ask us to start the creation of lanes, and we're going to use a different tool to create the lanes for this alignment. So we're going to go ahead and hit F4 to get out of the tool. Next, on page 3-38, step number 3, we're going to use a tool to create the lanes by the road template. And so to do that, we're going to go ahead and activate our template library. So we're going to go to the Corridors tab, we're going to go to the Create section, and then we're going to go into the Template, Create Template tool. By default, it goes to the mo.itl, so we're going to go ahead and do a File, Open. And we'll have to do this by selecting our Miller County folder, our job number, the design folder, and then the data 6 folder. In there we'll have an ITL, a template library for this project. Once the template library opens up, we can just simply close it down. We basically put that library in memory, and so every time we go and ask for a template library, it will now default to that one instead of the mo.itl. If we would shut down out of MicroStation, then we'd have to redefine that once again. So now to create the lanes using a template from that template library, all we need to do is go to the Superelevation section, go to the Create, and then slide down to Create Superelevation Lanes by Road Template. When you do that, you get the following dialog, and it's asking you for to locate the first superelevation section. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select the Route 54 section. If there was another section, which there is not, we would continue to select it. Since there is not another section, we're just going to right click to reset to complete. Now it's asking us for the template, so we're going to hit the triple dots, and we're going to go into that template library, and we're going to go into the job number folder, Route 54, and select the Route 54 concrete pavement 4-lane divided with ag base. Once we do that, we hit OK, and then we just have to left click to accept that template selection. And once you do that, it will create the lanes for you. Now there is a kind of an interesting little issue with the ORD program. Right now it defaults the superelevation section width to 50 meters or 50 feet in this case, and because of that it's underneath our lanes. They have an enhancement out there, and hopefully down the road they'll have that fixed so that it will automatically be wider than the lanes. But if you click on that section and zoom in, you should be able to see that you do have 12-foot lanes created for each roadway. And that's going to be important because if I go back into my template library and I look at my template for Route 54, you'll see that they were created based on the template. These template lanes are 12-foot wide, and again, the reason that it was able to create those at 12-foot wide is because there are certain points along the surface that have this superelevation flag turned on. And so this point is at a negative 30 foot over. This one should be at a negative 42 foot over, 12 foot wider. And then this one as well should be another 12 foot over, and it is. And again, all three of those points had the superelevation flag turned on. Typically only the pavement points have that superelevation flag turned on. So again, this point was 30 foot over from the origin, and so let's go make sure that if we click on this section, you should see a 30-foot line or 30-foot distance at the start of the superelevation shape. Once again, there is a just to explain that there is a bug in the superelevation tool that the last shape on the outer limits of the superelevation section on either side of the point that's being rotated about, which would be the inside lane, has to be 12 foot wide. So when I click on this section and zoom in, this lane needs to be 12 foot wide and this lane needs to be 12 foot wide. If it's less than that or greater than that, it will not calculate the superelevation correctly. And so in this case we are set up good to go because both of our lanes are 12 foot wide, and it should calculate that correctly. Okay, in the manual we are down at calculating our superelevation, which is again on page 6-38 on step number 6. And to calculate our superelevation, all we have to do is go up to the calculate button and then select calculate superelevation. When we do this, we're going to use the MoDOT rules file. We'll go ahead and select it just to make sure it's selected to the right one, which is this one right here, modot.xml. We'll go ahead and open that up. This is a rule job, so our E selection will be an 8% maximum. Our L selection is going to be based on the settings in AASHTO 2011, equation 3-23 and table 3-16. Our design speed will be 70 miles per hour. And our pivot method is going to be for a divided highway, and it's going to be a divided on the inside. Divided on the inside. Again, let me show you that little picture here. It's this one right here. I'm going to go ahead and open up the editor after this is done creating. So now all I have to do is just left click through all the prompts. And it will go ahead and calculate my superelevation. When the editor opens up again, it has several superelevation control lines in there. Again, if you right click and hit the display list, you can turn on and off all these. So if we hit none, you'll see that the control lines disappear. If we turn one on, when you hit apply, it turns that superelevation control line on. Same thing for the next one, so on and so on. Typically we have those all on, and we can see the superelevation control line. Another view that you can utilize is the Superelevation View, and so we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to select Open Superelevation View. It's going to ask locate the superelevation section. The easiest way to select the superelevation section is by going to the start or end of the alignment. You can see the section line there. So we'll go ahead and select it. and now it's asking for the view to open up. So we'll open up view number 8, and then just left click in that view, and then we'll get our Superelevation profile view in this area here. Again, if you needed to, you could select those elements in there, those control lines, and if needed, you could adjust the values that are popping up in there. We're going to leave them as is, so we're going to go ahead and close down this view. In the next step, which is on page 6-43, we're going to go ahead and verify at the slopes at the following locations. And one way to do that is just go in and select the superelevation section, and then what we're doing is we're checking the superelevation at the locations of where the tangent to spiral is and the spiral to curve is. Because with this alignment having a spiral in it, our transition length will go along the length of the spiral. So we're going to check the tangent to spiral location, or the TS location, which is at station 611 plus 21 in region 2, and that's considered a BB section. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in into that tangent to spiral location, which is right here. And when we look at that, you can see the station value and the slope. It's got a 0 slope on one side, and it's got a 0 slope on this side. So that is the BB section, which is considered the 0 crown section. So we have a 0 slope there. And then it also wants us to look at the spiral to curve location, which is the full super location. And you can see we are full super at this location at 7.4% slope, and that should match the same slope on the other lanes that we have. And then it also wants us to check down at the other side of the curve the CS point. You can see that we've got that superelevation full super at that location. And then at the ST point, the spiral to tangent point, again we have a 0 crown situation going on there, which is considered the BB section. Now we're going to go ahead and apply this superelevation to our corridor, so we need to open up our corridor file. So we're going to do a File, Open, Browse, select our corridors file from the Data 6 folder. And once this file opens up, you can select the tool from 2 different locations. You can do it from the tools at the top of the screen, or you can actually just select the corridor and pick the tool from the corridor grip. We're going to go ahead and check in the superelevation file. Once the file's open, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in and find a Route 54 corridor grip. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to try to get the heads-up tools to pop up. They do. I'm going to slide over to the corridor creation tools, which is the hammer tool. I'm going to select the pull down and slide down to the bottom icon, which is Assign Superelevation to Corridor. I'm going to select that. Now it's asking me to locate the first superelevation section. Again, it's a little hard to see in this file because the sections are kind of covered up by the superelevation lanes. So I'm going to come to the beginning of the alignment and select the section right there, and then I'm going to reset the complete, which is a right click. When I do that, it'll bring up the following dialog box. It's showing the superelevation lane, it's showing the superelevation point, and the pivot point. And if you wanted to, you could open up the template library, take a look at these points, and verify that they are rotating correctly. What we're going to do is we're going to open up, after we apply this, we're going to open up a cross-section view and see if it is rotating properly. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK to this. And when you hit OK to that, it's creating basically a superelevation point control and adding it into your point controls. So I'm going to hit F4 now to get out of that tool. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my cross sections and see how the superelevation is being applied. And so I'm going to select my corridor grip one more time. I'm going to try to get the heads up tools to pop up. I'm going to go to the second tool, which is the corridor views, and I'm going to select open cross-section model. Once I select that, it wants me to pick a view to open up, so I'm going to pick view 8, and then I'm going to left click in that view to activate the tool. When I do that, you can see I have cross sections in there. I'm going to make this view a little bit bigger, and if I wanted to, I can actually, like I mentioned in the earlier video, that you can kind of exaggerate either the horizontal or vertical view. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can exaggerate the vertical by holding the shift key down and then using my scroll button. And when I do that, you can see that I can horizontally exaggerate that. And then I'm going to also apply a vertical temporary dimension line, just so I can see how my template is super elevating as it goes through the curve. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to just place a point at that. I made a mistake. I'm going to hit F4. I tried to place a vertical temporary dimension line. I want to place a horizontal temporary dimension line. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to just right click and hold in a blank area. I'm going to go up to place horizontal temporary dimension line. Now I'm going to come out and select my pavement points, and I'm going to try to place several labels across the top of these templates here. And you can see at the beginning of the alignment my super elevation is 2%. Now, one thing I want to show you, I didn't show you in the last video, is that you can actually select a data point in the plan view, and this cross-section view will update to that data point. Again, what you need to do is just right click and hold, and then go up and select locate station via data point. When you click on that, it'll ask you to select the plan or profile view. We're going to select the plan view, so we're going to left click up there, and then when we left click up there, you can pick some area, and I'm going to try to pick an area that's probably maybe in my spiral area, which is right here, and I'm just going to left click, and it looks like I went further into the curve than the spiral area. It looks like it's in the full super there. So you can see there I got full super 7.4%, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of navigate back through the curve. And again, you can see what happens is when you navigate, this will go back and try to fit the cross-section view, but if you wanted to, you could zoom in like I did here, and then go up to View Properties and select Center on Current Offsets, and it should stay at those offsets now. And so if I continue to go back, you can see that we're super elevating back down to a 2% slope, or normal crown, and you can see we're at the zero crown location there, which is the BB section. It's 0 on this slope and 0 on that one, and you can see that we're rotating about the inside edge on both of these. And so now when I go back a little bit further, you can see now that we're at a 2% slope, or a normal crown, where we're going up 2% and then down 2%. Now, one other thing we can do, and I tried to do it earlier, but I was doing it wrong. We can place a vertical dimension line as well. So if I right click and hold, I can come out and say place vertical temporary dimension line. If you need to measure like a ditch elevation or ditch depth, you can do that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate on up, and that ditch depth is being read on each one of those sections. So that ends this chapter exercise for the Route 54 super elevation in Chapter 6.